Hello, and welcome to the next installment in our CNMS Success Book Review series. Today, your Office of Student Success is going to be going over the book Willpower by Roy Baumeister and John Tierney. You can check out the book Willpower, which was a New York Times bestseller, if you want to read it. It's really interesting, very readable, full of awesome stories. But of course, this series is about recapping these books so that you don't actually have to read them. So let's get into it. First of all, willpower is like a battery. This is kind of the overarching theme of the book Willpower. So just like your phone or your devices, you have to charge your willpower when it gets depleted. So we're going to take you through some strategies which are outlined in this book for how to avoid depleting your willpower too quickly, and then how best to use that to your academic advantage. So one thing to note is that choice is one of the things that most depletes your willpower, and it depletes it really quickly. So of course it's wonderful to have free will, and that's a very important thing for us in terms of motivation, as we talked about last week in the Smarter, Faster, Better video, which you should check out if you haven't seen it yet. But making decisions all the time depletes your willpower. So the more choices you can avoid daily, the higher your willpower is going to be. So let's talk about how to put that into practice. One thing you can do is to plan things in advance. So one thing we really suggest is every night before you finish studying or homework or whatever academic stuff you're doing for the day, when you're wrapping that up, think about the next day. Get out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone or in Google Keep or Google Docs, whatever you use that you'll check, the next day, and you'll see. And make as many choices as you can for the following day. So think about where you need to be. Think about what time your classes start, where those classes are. Think about when you're going to get that work done. When are you going to get that studying done? Where are you going to do it? What specific tasks do you need to do? How long are they going to take approximately? Think about all of these things, and not just academic things. Think about where you're going to eat breakfast or lunch, what you're going to eat if you need to think about that. Maybe think about your commute, where you're going to park, and how long it will take you to get to class. Really plan these things out, because if you're about to kind of finish your work for the day, it's okay to deplete your willpower by making decisions about the next day. Plus, making decisions about the future depletes your willpower less than making decisions about the present. Plus, you're about to charge your willpower stores overnight when you sleep. So that's really helpful. So a daily schedule routine can be really helpful, just creating that daily schedule every night. So what needs to be done? When's it going to be done? And where's it going to be done? What this allows you to do is to follow instructions. Following instructions helps us save a ton of brain power. So by planning all these things in advance and not having to make those decisions in the moment when you're about to start your homework or you're studying, you're going to save a lot more of your brain for homework. Because again, willpower takes up mental energy. It depletes your ability to focus and the length of time you can focus. And we really want to be able to give as much of that mental energy as possible to the task at hand, the homework, the studying, whatever we're doing academically. So by just following a set of instructions, it's like having a coach. You're kind of coaching yourself. It's kind of awesome. So it's really helpful. We definitely recommend it. Okay, performance control is huge as well. Like I just said, it's important to be able to give as much of your energy mentally as possible to whatever task you're working on. So if you're trying to focus on more than one thing at a time, you're not going to be able to give all of your attention to the thing or things that need it most. So let's talk about some study hacks that can help you give as much of that mental energy as possible to whatever you're working on. The first thing is, if you get distracted by thoughts about tasks that you haven't completed, things that you have to do later, things you're excited about, whatever that is, if you tend to get distracted while you're studying by those thoughts and then your mind kind of shifts to those things, keep a piece of paper and pen next to you while you're studying, while you're doing your homework. And when a thought like that passes through your mind, whether it's call my parents later, or I need to do laundry tonight, or remember to text that person back, whatever it is, write it down. What this does is it acts as a kind of external hard drive for your brain. So your brain can only focus on a certain number of things at one time. And that number is different for everybody, but it's usually around like 5 to 7. And if those thoughts start taking up those pieces of your memory, your working memory, it's really hard to focus on whatever you're studying, and it's taking away your attention from that. And so it's not making the study session as effective as it could be. So by externalizing those thoughts, those tasks, whatever they are, you allow your working memory to take those things out. You're putting them somewhere else. You're putting them in a external place, like a hard drive. That's why I use this metaphor. And then when you're finished your work, you can just take a look at that list. So you're not going to be worried about forgetting them because you know that you've written them down somewhere. So your focus should be able to snap back pretty quickly. And I really recommend doing this on paper with a pen, because if you use a device, it's easy to get really distracted by that device by looking at other notifications or other things. So in that same vein, you should put your phone away. So silence your notifications on your phone and also on any other devices, especially if you're working on a device. Try to turn it on do not disturb, or turn the notifications off for email, for texts, for whatever other social media you use that your devices are giving you notifications for. Turn all those notifications off. And the phone should be put away, not just flipped over on your desk because you can still see it right there, but like fully out of sight. So in a bag, in a drawer, whatever is easiest for you. It's still within your reach, but you're way more likely to avoid it if it's out of sight. So if someone regularly needs you during the time that you're turning your devices on do not disturb, tell them you're going to be unavailable so that you don't worry about that. Or keep notifications turned on for just that person if it's really important. So the next thing we're going to talk about is priorities. You've got a lot of priorities. Everyone's got a lot of priorities. They compete. So try to limit yourself. Of course, we have those different priorities. You should have different priorities, but you should be trying to focus on one at a time. So if you have decided to do math homework from 11 to 12, for instance, that's your priority. So if you can keep that in mind, it's easier to turn off those notifications, to put that phone away, to decide that you're going to focus on math homework for this amount of time. It's giving you kind of a limit on that amount of time, which makes it easier to focus for just that hour and try to get as much done and be as efficient as you can within that hour. Your willpower is higher if you have an end point to whatever you're doing. That being said, of course, you should have lots of priorities, but try not to have too many at once. You have a limited amount of energy and brain power. We've been talking about this for the whole video. So think about your overarching priorities in your life. Try your hardest to align the smaller priorities to the larger ones. So if you have a big overarching goal of a specific career when you leave UMBC, maybe getting into a professional school, medical school, graduate school, whatever it is, try aligning your smaller priorities to that big one. So think about what a pre-med student would be doing at this time. Are you doing that thing? Are you doing those things that student should be doing based on that identity? Because if you're doing them, it's going to make you feel like there's less cognitive dissonance between what you're, who you are now and who you want to become. So you can have different priorities, but as long as they kind of have their time and place in every day or every week, that will help your willpower. So the next thing I want to talk about is temptations. So temptations, anything that makes you think, oh, I really want that, and you have to try and avoid it or give into it. This depletes your willpower. Trying to avoid them depletes your willpower. So if you find yourself tempted by things throughout the day, you should do your best to just avoid them. So if you pass by Starbucks and Chick-fil-A every day, for instance, on your way to class, and it smells really good, or you just see Starbucks and you're like, oh, I really want a coffee, your mind is going to be consumed by that. And you avoiding it, like walking past the Starbucks and Chick-fil-A, is going to deplete your willpower, going to deplete your focus for class, which is not great. So if it's really hard for you to pass those places without going in, or you're thinking about avoiding them really hard, try taking a new route to class if possible. That's one example. So make a list of things that tempt you and come up with avoidance strategies for each one. So basically, the more you're tempted throughout the day by things you are avoiding or trying to avoid, the harder it's going to be for you to sit down and study and do things that are hard, that take willpower. Because your willpower is getting depleted each time you pass Starbucks or whatever that temptation is. This goes along the lines of putting your phone in your bag. If your phone is a temptation or a distraction, just put it away. You're not looking at it. You're not going to be thinking about it. You'll be amazed at how much this works. Now let's talk about a few healthy habits. The overarching theme of healthy habits and willpower is that adequate sleep and nutrition can and will boost your willpower. So what kind of habits should you be getting into? First of all, sleep enough. Sleep deprivation is one of the absolute worst things you can do for your brain. Studies show, and this is real, there's a Washington Post study in 2022 about this, showed that the sleep and GPA were directly correlated for students in college. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time to sleep and stick to it. So if you have a hard time going to bed because you're on your phone or you're doing whatever, figure out a way to remind yourself to go to bed. If you're on your phone, put a little reminder in there. Smartphones have those reminder apps. So make a daily reminder at midnight or whatever time you're trying to go to bed that, if you're on your phone and you're watching TikTok or whatever you're doing, you're going to get a little thing that says, go to bed. You have to actually go to bed. You have to do that. You have to listen to the cue. You can't just ignore it. So think about if you're really struggling to follow the routine, find ways to remind yourself how important it is to sleep. Maybe that reminder should say, do you want a high GPA? Go to bed now. That's something that will probably kind of get you in the spirit of like, oh yeah, I need to go to bed. The other thing is that nutrition is key. So make sure that you're eating a balanced diet. And you can talk to a health professional like your doctor or a dietitian if you have special dietary needs. Something like skipping breakfast, it's really bad for your willpower because you're not fueling your body adequately to start the day. So things like avoiding excessive sugar and way too much caffeine, those are helpful. But small amounts of caffeine and sugar can boost your willpower because glycogen is what your brain runs on as well as your body. And so having a little boost can just kind of prompt you to be more likely to sit down and study. But that being said, you should talk to a health professional about your diet and ways to optimize it for you and your focus and your willpower. And stay hydrated. Water is super important. Bring a water bottle with you when you are leaving your room or your house or whatever. There's lots of places on campus to fill it up. So make sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day. It's going to keep you alert. It's going to keep you focused. It's going to keep your willpower up. All those things are good. Okay, so we can improve our willpower with practice. And I want to talk about the main way to do that as a student. Try keeping a close eye on how you spend your time. So keep a log, not just a sort of data log, but a diary almost of your studying. So note down when you're extra tired, when you were super productive. So being attentive to something is going to make you want to focus more on it because it's going to be taking up more room in your brain. It's going to become the thing that's important to you. You're going to find yourself creating plans and optimizing your time for the most success if you do something like keeping a record of your studying. So if you want to get into the habit of this, I would say this is another good wind down exercise before bed. If you can do this in a real notebook, it will also help you limit your screen time before you go to sleep, which will help you fall asleep more easily, as shown by many studies. And you can kind of think back on the day. Think about what went well. Think about what didn't go well. Think about where you were. Where did you get the best work done? What distracted you? Were you cold? Were you hungry? Were you sleepy? What made your studying good and what made your studying bad? What are you the most proud of? And what would you rather went differently the next time you tried it? Those things are going to stick with you. They're also going to help just wrap up your day, tie up those thoughts in a neat little package. You can go back and read it. You can, use that to feel less anxious before a test by reading your basically study log. It's going to make you remember how much studying you did. Maybe you had a great day of studying because you did extra chemistry practice problems and this is where you got those problems. Maybe you had a great study session because you went to the tutoring center and you did some drop-in tutoring and that was really awesome. Maybe write down your tutor's name so you can check the schedule and see when they're going to be back in case you need more help. All these things are going to help you and your willpower improve because this is going to become a more important thing in your life. And the last thing is don't deprive yourself of things that make you happy. So when we exert a lot of willpower in one area, we have to give ourselves some grace in other areas. So this means that you should make time every single day for things that fill up your battery and bring you joy, basically. Whether that's watching Netflix by yourself, maybe you're playing video games with your friends or your sibling, spending time with friends or family, like, meeting friends for dinner at True Grits or something if you live on campus. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's giving time to another hobby you might have. You only have one tank, and so make sure you fill it. Maybe that's going to the rack, going for a run around Hilltop Circle. Maybe you like to knit. Spend some time maybe with the UMBC Crafters Club or just by yourself in your room or with relatives, family, if you live at home. Whatever it is, make sure that you have something on your calendar every single day that you're looking forward to. Again, it can be as simple as watching an episode of your favorite show. But if you're looking forward to it and you have an end point of your studying, this is really going to help you be more efficient and make your willpower higher because you're really excited to focus and get through all your work so that you can get to the fun stuff later on. So that's all for now. And we're going to see you next week. Thanks for tuning in today. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye.